There are some major developments happening in the Gaza Strip. Israel is launching an attack that could signal the beginning of the end for Hamas in Gaza. With 50 to 70,000 IDF troops now in the Gaza Strip, Israel is beginning an attack with a force that Hamas has not yet seen since the beginning of the war. The question is, will Israel finally gain complete victory over Hamas in Gaza? I'm Josiah Hilton, and this is the Israel Guys. Israel is finally beginning what they are calling the final push to defeat Hamas in Gaza. Yesterday morning, Jewish Breaking News reported this. In a major escalation, the IDF has launched a wide-scale ground operation in multiple areas across the Gaza Strip, marking the beginning of what they're calling Operation Gideon's Chariots. Over the past 24 hours, regular and reserve units under the IDF's Southern Command entered both northern and southern Gaza, pushing deep into terrorist strongholds. This follows a week-long air campaign in which the Israeli Air Force struck over 670 Hamas targets across the Strip. These strikes aimed to disrupt enemy preparations and pave the way for ground forces. Targets include weapons depots, terrorist operative underground tunnel routes, and anti-tank missile launching positions. The IDF confirms that dozens of terrorists have been eliminated so far, while key terror infrastructure, both above and below ground, has been destroyed. Israeli forces are now holding strategic positions inside the territory. The question is, how big is this offensive, and will it lead to complete victory for Israel in the Gaza Strip? According to Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, he said this: since yesterday, 5 divisions of the IDF have been operating in Gaza with a level of force not seen since the war began. This is not a temporary incursion, but a deliberate and enduring presence, occupying, purging, and remaining until Hamas is eliminated. The Gaza Strip is one enormous terror city, and it will be dismantled. This represents a fundamental shift in our military strategy. With God's help, it will bring about the destruction of Hamas and the return of the hostages. Over the last several months, we've seen Israel really pushing and pursuing, since the last ceasefire hostage deal ended, Israel's been pushing and pursuing, trying to get another deal with Hamas to try to return some more of the hostages. And as we talked about last week, Israel is finally prepping for this major offensive to finally bring Hamas to its knees, hopefully, and either push them to the negotiating table to release all the hostages and end the war, or completely dismantle Hamas's terror infrastructure in the Gaza Strip and rescue the hostages that way, bring them home in that capacity. On Monday morning, so the scope of this operation and what's happening in Gaza, on Monday morning, the IDF issued an evacuation order to the residents of Khan Yunis in the south of Gaza. They published this map indicating where the Gazans could safely move to from the city of Khan Yunis. And it has actually already been reported that Gazans are actually evacuating the city, following the warning of the IDF very wisely, and evacuating the city. IDF troops from the Golani and Yahalom Brigade units have dismantled a terror tunnel in the Morag corridor last week. This tunnel actually claimed the lives of several soldiers just several weeks ago. And just, I think this morning, last night, in an incredible undercover operation, Israeli soldiers dressed as Gazan civilians infiltrated central Khan Yunis city and eliminated Ahmed Sarhan, who is a senior commander in the military wing of the Popular Resistance Committees. They also, in this operation, took out Abu Ahmed, who is Hamas's southern Khan Yunis battalion commander. And they're dealing heavy blows to Hamas's military command structure by eliminating these key Hamas leaders. This operation reportedly involved intense aerial support from fighter jets and Apache helicopters, as well as the undercover force who dressed as Gaza civilians, and an elite Israeli commando unit with search and rescue dogs. We'll be right back with the rest of the show in just one second. But first, with all the challenges Israel is facing, I want to share with you a way that you can strengthen Jewish families who are on the front lines of the battle for the land of Israel. Blessed by Israel is a company that brings the amazing products of families in the biblical heartland to people all around the world. From Israel right to your doorstep, you can enjoy awesome products like coffee roasted to perfection by Agro Cafe, which, by the way, I drink pretty much every single day in the office in Israel, and several kinds of delicious honey, jewelry, organic spices, and much, much more, all from wonderful, small, family-owned businesses in Israel. Be a part of encouraging and investing in the people of Israel and enjoy high-quality products at the same time. You can head over to blessedbyisrael.com to purchase beautiful boutique products and make your impact on the nation of Israel today. Use the code INVEST for $5 off your first order at blessedbyisrael.com. Again, that's blessedbyisrael.com. Click the link in the description below to start supporting the small businesses of Judea and Samaria who are on the front lines of the battle for the land of Israel. blessedbyisrael.com. Another massive development that is happening in the war in the Gaza Strip is Israel is resuming aid to the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu approved Sunday evening the transfer of humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. The restarting of the transfer of the humanitarian aid into the Strip. The Prime Minister's office said that this is being done at the recommendation of the IDF and due to the operational need to enable the expansion of intense fighting to defeat Hamas. And this will allow the entry of basic quantity of food for the population in order to prevent the development of a hunger crisis in the Gaza Strip. Such crisis would endanger the continued operation to defeat Hamas. And like we talked about on the show last week, people are talking about the starvation in Gaza, and the Israeli government obviously has a very good pulse on what is happening in the Gaza Strip, if there's actually starving population. And if you watch last week's show, he disproved that there was actually starvation and a famine going on in the Gaza Strip. But the Israeli government is now saying we're transferring more aid into Gaza now so we do not want a hunger crisis to develop. The Prime Minister's office also said that, quote, Israel will act to deny Hamas the ability to seize control of the distribution of humanitarian aid in order to ensure that the aid does not reach Hamas terrorists. Not exactly sure the ways they're going to do that, but Israel is committed with sending this new aid in, not to allow Hamas to actually obtain that aid and steal it from the civilians. And Israel had previously stopped all humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip because of this reason, because Hamas was stealing the aid and not letting it reach the civilians who actually needed the food and supplies. So Israel is currently working on to resolve this issue of Hamas stealing the aid. Israel is currently working on putting in place a U.S.-backed mechanism for the safe and reliable transfer and distribution of humanitarian aid in the Gaza Strip, not allowing Hamas to get their hands on it. But until that new process and mechanism can be operational, which they said I think is next month, they're going to be currently distributing the aid through several international organizations. Israel's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich had some inside information that indicates why Israel is sending aid in right at the moment that they are intensifying the attacks on Hamas. And like I said before, it's to prevent a hunger crisis, but here's the specific reason. Bezalel Smotrich said, quote, when the IDF resumed full efforts to conquer Gaza, moving civilians from areas with some remaining food, our great friends worldwide, those who support us and understand that we cannot stop just before complete victory in Hamas's destruction, asked us to help them help us dispel starvation claims. We must do so. Without this, we cannot fight and win. This is not surrendering to pressure, but doing the right thing to stay focused on the main goal, destroying Hamas. Israel is issuing that evacuation order from Khan Yunis where there's currently food. So all these the Gazans who have to move out to get away from the fighting, they need food to the refugee camp, the places that they're going to stay outside of the camp, in these camps for civilians. They need food. So Israel's sending in humanitarian aid to help them there. A very sensible approach to this offensive that Israel is starting to actually finally. Their goal is to finally finish Hamas and bring them to their knees to the end. And while all this is going on, something a little bit strange. And we've talked about what's happening with the U.S. going to Qatar, to Saudi Arabia, with the different dealings and how Saudi Arabia views Israel, how Qatar views Israel. Saudi Arabia is sponsoring and putting forth this event in June at the UN to recognize a Palestinian state. It was just announced today that U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has canceled his upcoming trip to Israel. Now, while the administration explained that this cancellation was due to logistical constraints, a report from Axios just came out saying that the decision was reportedly made to avoid signaling U.S. endorsement of Israel's expanded ground operation, which Israel launched under the name Operation Gideon's Chariots. So according to this report from Axios, America's like, okay, we're not going to send J.D. Vance because that could look like we're condoning this new offensive in the Gaza Strip to finally end Hamas. And it seems like the U.S. administration is not willing to do that. Whether this report is actually true or not, it's a report that just came out. It is odd that Israel has been left out of the recent visits to the Middle East by the Trump administration. With that being said, Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy to the Middle East, is ramping up his efforts to mediate another ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. It appears that the attitude of the Trump administration is that they really want an end to the war in Gaza as soon as possible, and with or without the return of all the hostages from Hamas captivity. And the reason I say that is because the current deal that they're working from does not provide for all the hostages to be returned. Even though Israel is launching this massive campaign in the Gaza Strip, and they are focused on trying to bring the hostages home and end Hamas and destroy Hamas's military capabilities and their fighting capacity, Israel is still putting forth every effort. Israel's negotiating team is still in Doha. They're still putting forth every effort to reach a ceasefire deal with Hamas, probably more like a hostage deal with Hamas, which would involve, obviously, a ceasefire. And since since Israel has launched this offensive, this massive offensive in Gaza, Hamas has signaled that they're ready to negotiate a deal again, showing that this pressure by Israel, this new offensive, is actually working to pressure Hamas to do what they previously said they would not do, and that was negotiate another deal. The main and only issue I see with a ceasefire hostage deal, the one that Steve Witkoff is currently working on, and that the one that I think Hamas wants to work with, is that it does not provide for all the hostages being returned, and it gives Hamas the guarantees that if there's a ceasefire deal, that will be the start of ending the war, basically not allowing Israel, once the ceasefire is over, to come back in and finish what they started in destroying the Hamas's capabilities. But the big other huge issue is we're not providing for all the hostages to come home. Yes, some of them will come home, and that's amazing, but not all of them. And that means with Hamas still in power inside the Gaza Strip, which, guys, cannot be an acceptable solution to the end of this war, to ending this war. And obviously it started back on October 7th of 2023. We cannot forget the reason the war started, the reason Israel is in Gaza right now in the first place, destroying Hamas and leveling much of the Gaza Strip. The reason is because of October 7th, because Hamas brutally and unprovoked attacked Israel and murdered 1,200 civilians and took over 200 captive into the Strip. Guys, thanks for watching today's episode. Don't forget to check out blessedbyisrael.com or click the link in the description below to purchase wonderful products from small businesses in Israel. Subscribe, get the conversation going down in the comments below. If you'd like to support our work here at The Israel Guys, go to theisraelguys.com/donate. Also go to The Israel Guys to sign up for the Israel Summit, June 9th through 11th. This is a massive conference in Dallas, Texas. You do not want to miss coming to this historic event. Get your tickets today. And don't forget to stop listening to all those lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what is happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back soon here at The Israel Guys.